So I finished the pattern. I've knit all the way up my first mitten. It's a bit wobbly, but blocking is going to take care of that. That's a magical process. What's also magical is the grafting that we're going to do to close the end of our knitting. And we're going to do that using something called Kitchener stitch, which is truly magical. Let's have a look on our completed mitten. You can see the end is completely closed, and if I show you close up, it's very tricky to see sort of where one side of knitting begins and ends, because it sort of flows in and over the top of the mitten there, almost invisibly. It's an almost invisible seam. It's like that border goes all the way around. I love Kitchener stitch. It's a great technique to learn. Full disclosure, I have to look it up every single time I do it. But you'll see, once you get into the rhythm, there's a very clear rhythm of what you need to do, because essentially what you're doing is taking a needle, thus, threading the end of your yarn through, and you're essentially mimicking the look of a knitting stitch by kind of weaving it through with your darning needle. So let's get going. Let's see what it looks like. So I'm at the end of my work here, and I've got 18 stitches left. I've got 9 on each needle, so they're evenly spread. It has to be evenly spread when you're working Kitchener stitch. Before you do anything at all, you need to set it up to kind of get the yarn where it needs to be before you start casting off or removing any stitches at all. So let's go ahead and get it set up. So I've thread the end of my yarn here. This end is a little bit shorter than I'd suggest you need it, but it's just for the video, so that's fine. So I've got my darning needle, and I'm going to thread it through the first stitch on the front needle, and I'm going to do that in the same direction as if I was going to purl that stitch, so kind of going through the front of it as if I was going to purl it. And I'm just going to pull my end through and leave it like that. That's all we need to do on there. And now I'm going to go across to the back needle. Okay, and again working with the first stitch on that needle. This time I'm going to insert the darning needle or the tapestry needle knitwise, as if I was going to knit that stitch. Okay, and it's going through, and I'm going to just leave that there. So that's the setup done. Now the magic is going to happen. Okay, so I am now going to take my darning needle and put it through the first stitch on the front needle knitwise. So we went through purlwise before, we're now going knitwise. Pull my yarn through, and this time I'm going to slip that stitch right off the end of that needle. It is caught with my yarn. It's not a live stitch anymore. It is dealt with and taken care of. I am just now going to go back and put my darning needle purlwise through the next stitch along, pull the yarn through and leave it. Going back now to my back needle. So at the moment I've got 8 stitches on the front and 9 on the back, so we need to even that up. So I'm going to come through to my back needle, and I'm going to take my needle purlwise through the first stitch on the back, and I'm going to pull the yarn through and slip that stitch right off the end of that needle. Can you see that's coming off there? That's gone. Okay, and I'm just going to pull my yarn, trying to kind of show you everything. As you're working this, you'll be able to keep your yarn nicely taut as you pull it through. Don't pull too tight because that yarn will break. Okay, so that's come off the back needle. I'm now going to go back and put my needle knitwise through the back. Alright, so what you'll notice is happening is we are taking a stitch off and then threading our yarn back through as it's kind of its neighbour. Then we're moving to the other needle, taking a stitch off and threading our yarn through its neighbour. So once we know that's happening, we can get a rhythm going. So let's try and get a rhythm going here. So we're going knitwise, off. Okay, so stitch coming off. Purlwise, stays on. All right, then we're going to go purlwise, off, knitwise, whoops, knitwise, it's easy, isn't it? Knitwise, stays on. knitwise off, purlwise stays on, and I'm alternating backwards and forwards as I do so, back needle and front needle as I do this. So purlwise off, careful there, purlwise off, knitwise stays on, knitwise, whoops, comes off, off, whoops. You can see how inept I am with my left hand. Purlwise stays on, and so on and so on. Purlwise off, knitwise on. I think I can move my hand now. Knitwise off, purlwise on. Oops. No, I've gone through 2 stitches there. It was going so well, wasn't it? Purlwise 245, 245. That's got to come off. Purlwise on. It's just getting caught around the needles because the yarn is getting smaller. So purlwise off, pull through, knitwise stays on, knitwise off, purlwise, oops, on, purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on, nearly there, purl off, can't see, purl off, knit on, knit off, purl on, purl off, oops, purl, no, anytime now, purl off, knit on. Now I'm at the last stitches, as you can see, on both needles. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to knit off the front one, and I'm going to purl off the back. Okay, so let's put that to one side. So you will see that that end is grafted, which means the stitches just kind of continue over the top and down the other side. That is Kitchener stitch. It is fantastic, well worth practicing, and almost like magic.